You didn't mean to do it. That's what makes it work. You weren't following a strategy. You weren't executing a plan. You were just living your life, moving through your days with a certain quality of attention that most men have lost or never had to begin with. And now she's texting you at 2 in the morning. Now she's finding reasons to be in the same room. Now she's laughing too hard at things that aren't funny and touching your arm when she doesn't need to. She's crazy for you. Not because you're perfect. Not because you said the right things or wore the right clothes or played the right games, but because you did 5 specific things that bypassed her conscious mind and triggered something deeper, something biological, something she can't control even if she wanted to. Let's talk about what you did. The first thing you did was you stopped being available, not in the way most men think. You didn't play hard to get. You didn't ignore her texts for calculated intervals. You didn't manufacture distance. You just had a life that mattered more than her attention. When she texted, you responded when you got around to it. Not because you were trying to make her wait, but because you were genuinely doing something else that held your focus. You were working, you were training, you were reading, you were with people who added value to your existence. She felt it immediately. Most men are instantly available because they have nothing else going on. Their phone is always in their hand. Their schedule is always flexible. Their plans can always be moved for a woman who shows interest. You weren't like that, not because you were pretending, but because your time actually had value. Because you built a life that demanded your attention. Because you understood on some level that a man who drops everything is a man with nothing worth dropping. She noticed. Women notice everything, especially the things you're not trying to show them. The second thing you did was you stopped seeking her approval. You didn't need her to validate your choices. You didn't need her to confirm that you were interesting or attractive or worth her time. You already knew who you were. When you spoke your actual thoughts, not the thoughts you believed would impress her, not the opinions you thought she wanted to hear. You disagree with her when you actually disagreed. You liked what you liked without apology. You expressed preferences that didn't align with hers and felt no need to justify them. Most men perform. They perform interest in things they don't care about. They perform agreement with opinions they don't hold. They perform a version of themselves they think women want to see. You just existed. And that difference, that lack of performance, created a gap she couldn't ignore. Because she's used to men who mold themselves to fit her expectations. She's used to men who laugh at her jokes a little too enthusiastically and agree with her observations a little too quickly. You didn't do that. You treated her like a person you were getting to know, not a prize you were trying to win. You asked questions because you were curious, not because you were interviewing for the position of boyfriend. She felt seen in a way she rarely feels seen. Not because you complimented her appearance, not because you validated her feelings, but because you engaged with her mind without trying to manipulate it. You listened without agenda. You responded without calculation. The third thing you did was you maintained your standards. You didn't lower your bar to let her in. You didn't compromise your boundaries to make things easier. You didn't pretend to be okay with behavior that actually bothered you. When she was late, you mentioned it. When she was flaky, you called it out. When she said something that crossed a line, you addressed it without anger, but also without apology. Most men are so grateful for female attention that they accept anything. Disrespect, inconsistency, poor treatment dressed up as personality quirks. You didn't. Not because you were trying to be difficult, but because you genuinely valued your own peace more than her presence. You understood that a woman who requires you to abandon your standards is a woman who will never respect you. She tested you, of course. Women always test. They show up late to see if you'll say something. They flake on plans to see if you'll make excuses for them. They push boundaries to find out where your spine lives. You passed every test by not even recognizing them as tests. You simply responded honestly, calmly, without drama or anger or passive aggression. You stated what worked for you and what didn't. You were willing to walk away from situations that didn't align with your standards. And that willingness, that genuine indifference to outcomes, made her want you more. Because she's used to men who bend, men who accommodate, men who sacrifice their dignity for the possibility of sex or relationship or validation. You didn't bend. The fourth thing you did was you built something that mattered. You had a mission, a purpose, a project that consumed your focus and energy in ways she never could. When she asked what you were up to, you had real answers, not just working, said with the tone of someone who hates their job. Not nothing much, said with the energy of someone waiting for life to happen to them. You were building something, learning something, improving something, working toward a goal that existed independent of her existence. She could feel the pull of it. The way you talked about your work, the way you prioritized your training, the way you carved out time for projects that had nothing to do with romance or relationships or her. Most men make women their mission. They orient their entire existence around female attention. They build their schedules around availability. They measure their worth by how desired they are. They have no center that doesn't involve a woman's validation. You had a center. Something solid. Something that mattered before you met her and would continue to matter after she left. Something that didn't need her approval or participation to be valuable. And that center, that gravitational pull of purpose, made her want to orbit around it. Because women are attracted to men who are going somewhere, not men who are waiting for a woman to give them direction. Not men who have time for endless texting and constant availability. Men who are busy building something worth building. The fifth thing you did was you treated her like a person, not a goddess. You didn't pedestalize her. You didn't worship her. You didn't treat her femininity like a rare and precious gift that you should feel honored to be near. You saw her clearly, her strengths and her flaws, her intelligence and her insecurities, her beauty and her ordinary humanness. You complimented her when she earned it, not constantly. You showed interest when you felt it, not performatively. You enjoyed her company without making her the center of your emotional universe. Most men elevate women beyond human status. They treat every woman like a prize. They act grateful for basic attention. They praise ordinary behavior as extraordinary. They create a dynamic where the woman is always above and the man is always reaching up. You created equality. You treated her well because you treat people well, not because she was female. You showed respect because you value respect, not because you were trying to earn hers. You were kind because kindness matters to you, not because you thought it would get you something. She felt it immediately. The difference between a man who treats her like a goddess and a man who treats her like an interesting human being he enjoys spending time with. The first creates pressure. Expectation. The exhausting performance of living up to idealization. The second creates comfort, space, the freedom to be flawed and human and real, and in that space, she fell. Not because you were perfect, but because you were real, solidly, unshakably real in ways most men have forgotten how to be. You had boundaries, standards, a life that mattered, a purpose that pulled you, a center that held. You didn't need her. You wanted her maybe, enjoyed her certainly, but you didn't need her to complete you or validate you or give your life meaning. And that lack of need created the very thing most men are desperately trying to manufacture through strategy and technique and calculated behavior. Desire. Real desire. The kind that keeps her awake at night. The kind that makes her check her phone hoping you've texted. The kind that makes her rearrange her schedule to be near you. She's crazy for you now, not because of what you did to her, but because of what you didn't do. You didn't perform. You didn't pedestalize. You didn't abandon yourself to win her. You just lived your life with integrity and purpose and standards. And she fell into the gravity of that. Most men are still trying to figure out the formula, the right words, the right moves, the right strategy to make a woman want them. you accidentally discovered the truth. There is no formula. There's just being a man who knows who he is, knows what he wants, and doesn't compromise either for the possibility of female attention. She's texting you right now, probably, asking what you're doing, suggesting you meet up, finding reasons to be in your space. And you'll respond when you get around to it, not because you're playing a game, but because you're living your life.